Electronics TV Shootout here at CE Week. Robert Zzohn, owner and founder of Value Electronics and the establisher of this event. In 4 different performance parameters. Dynamic range, color saturation, color accuracy, and motion resolution.
For day mode, in dynamic range, the winner of that category is Sony with the Z9F. For day mode, color saturation, the winner is Sony A9G. For color accuracy, it is Sony with the A9G OLED. For motion resolution in the day mode, it is a tie between Sony A9G and LG C9P. In the reference mode, it is Sony with the A9G. For color saturation, it's a tie between Sony's A9G and LG C9P. For color accuracy, it's Sony with the A9G. For motion resolution, it's a tie between Sony A9G and LG C9. For HDR, Sony with the A9G. Color saturation, it's a tie for the A9G and the LG C9. For color accuracy, it's a tie. Sony A9G, LG C9. For motion resolution, it's a 3-way tie. Sony Z9F, Sony A9G, LG C9. For HDR, it's an exact tie. A9G, C9. Another exact tie on color saturation, A9G, C9. Color accuracy, A9G. Motion resolution, an exact tie, A9G, C9, LG. For streaming, we have a tie, A9G, C9. We have another tie for color saturation, A9G, C9. For color accuracy in streaming, it's the A9G. And we have an exact tie again on motion resolution, C9 and A9G. Those are the results. The king of TV for 2019 is Sony's A9G.
The Sony took it, man. Sony A9G became the numero uno TV 2019.
2 years in a row.
Two.
Those. So China was actually on the judges panel. So what did you see that warranted the win?
A whole bunch of different factors, because there was a lot of different things that each TV kind of did something weird with. Like there was a certain case where each TV did something weird, and then sometimes there was a time where each TV did something perfect. So it's kind of like hard to judge, actually. I did give the Samsung a lot of points for motion handling and a couple of color saturations, but I think overall, when we used the which model was the TV?
Oh, it was the BVM 300, I think.
The BVM 300, the mastering monitor, as a reference. The color on the Sony was just spot on. Flesh tones, the color of the sky. They did a snowboarding movie, The First Flight. I think it was an old Travis Rice snowboarding movie, and man, the snow just looked totally accurate. Whereas all the other TVs in that, we're just not so accurate. But then, the motion, pretty much on everything, looked pretty awesome. I think the Samsung was great on motion. I did see a bunch of blooming on the the Z9F? Is that?
Yes, no, the Z9 definitely had a bunch of blooming.
Yeah.
So, what's so funny about that is that in the chat, Shane's chat, I told someone, I said the feeling in the room is that the Z9F and the A9G are very close to the reference monitor.
Yeah, everybody was saying that.
And some
it was the
guys
closest one.
Oh, and somebody else in the chat says, "Oh, well, I also have someone that's at the event," and they're not saying that. But it's so funny because one of the first winners was the Z9F, and that was for a daytime viewing.
78.46, 64.62, 115, 155.
But that shouldn't be a surprise because that thing's crazy.
Yeah,
it's
super
only
bright. Yeah.
It only failed during the nighttime viewing, which of course, like you said, a lot of blooming involved. I mean, when these guys put up that one, what was it? It was a square.
It was the zone tester, the
zone tester,
FALD zone
a square
tester.
going around the screen. Nothing but Bloom City. Bloom City at that point.
It was Bloomtastic.
I mean, the Q90 did a little better than the 9F.
It did.
Yes, it did.
It did.
And then the OLEDs were just like perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
To be expected.
Yep. Crazy thing though, Samsung, no accolades, no type of award, no type of love for Samsung.
Be careful what you say, because people are going to say it's a conspiracy against LED Samsung owners.
And that's definitely not true, because I did give Samsung a few 10s in different aspects. So I was like, oh, I'm sure in this part we're gonna see Samsung, or we're gonna hear Samsung, and Samsung was just not called at all for anything. And I was
hoping
surprised.
Samsung would at least win one thing in like daytime, because that's what that TV is good for. But when it didn't win anything, I was actually sad.
I was bored, like hearing Sony A9G,
Yeah.
close
It was kinda
ties, Sony
repetitive.
and C9.
I heard
Sony
a couple of
and LG.
Yeah, I heard a couple people in the crowd kind of disappointed every time they announced A9 LG, A9 LG. I heard a bunch of oh shits.
I think when they were looking at that 2001 intro with the stars,
Yeah.
wasn't the I think this Samsung was like, it was darkening it, right?
Samsung was darker, but then they made the point of like, look at the BVM, and it had like, it wasn't as dark, like it matched more the Sony's. Yeah,
Yeah, what kept happening was someone would look at one of the sets, not the BVM, they would look at one of the sets and be like, wow, I really like that one. But then Joe Silver would be like, remember, reference to BVM.
Yeah.
Reference to BVM. He kept saying that. And every time that happened, it would always go back to the A9G and or the LG C9, which is why those two got the number 1 and 2 spots.
So do you think they should do it without the reference TV next time?
I mean, if you do it without the reference,
It's a reference for a reason.
Right, but another thing Joel was saying was that, they're all doing something different for particular reasons, right? So like the Z9F would be doing really, really bright, like whites in the test patterns, but then you'd have another set not giving you subdued whites, but like more detail. So there was some conversation in there about intention.
But I think some people did like the Samsung because it was darkening, like the space.
It gave it like a nice
contrast
oomph to it. Yeah,
Yeah.
It made it look different.
Even though the reference monitor didn't look like that.
right. Like when I first walked in and they had those, what was it, the Aquaman playing, right?
Yeah.
Like my eyes went to the Samsung.
Yeah.
And they just kept going to the Samsung, and I was like, I bet that's a Samsung.
Right.
And I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, that looks great.
But that's usually what happens in retail stores, is that a lot of people will
Right.
flock to the Samsungs because of how bright, how punchy the colors
Right.
are, and people are not informed and educated to the fact that that's not accurate to what the creator intended.
Yeah, once you get that BVM, BVM, yeah. Once you get that in the mix, it's tough to like, go away from it. I remember they shut that off, and as we were doing the streaming comparison, that was just hard, because it was just like, what do you choose? Because we don't have a reference.
Yeah.
And they're just kind of all over the place.
Well, he goes, again, I keep mentioning Joel because that dude's a character, as we talked about. But he kept saying, go with your gut. Remember, the Master Series TVs, they have the Netflix calibrated mode.
I thought for Netflix, I thought the A9G, I thought it was darker than the rest of them.
It seemed like it to me. It definitely was, yeah.
A good point they kept making was, if you're trying to decide between two TVs, and you can't decide, look at a third.
Yeah.
Remember that? They kept saying that.
Yeah.
And the third would be the BVM 300.
But I was like manning the camera the whole time, but which one had better movement or motion?
I think they were all on par for motion. No matter what they were pumping through there, everything looked good. And I think like a lot of them were saying, like the guys that calibrated the sets were like, it's so close this year, they're almost like identical. And I think in a situation like this, we are really just splitting hairs.
Yeah, they did say that this year was the year that the calibrations have been. Hey,
I just spilled red wine all over my blue shirt.
but they were saying that this is the year, or this is the only year, in which the calibrations on all four sets have been the closest.
I mean, so that's a good thing. I think for consumers, like
Yeah.
that's just a good thing.
For sure, because that's a testament to the manufacturing processes. And, well, some of these guys were tooting their own horn, but they also said That's a testament to their calibration technique.
Well, no. What they were saying, I think
These guys are like legit Hollywood people, professional calibrators. It's not like share your calibrations online and everybody use it.
Yeah.
That's not like share settings and.
Because they did mention that usually when people copy calibrations, it actually will make your TV look worse.
Right, and hey, I'm gonna give you another Joel Silver quote. You ready?
Yeah.
So he goes, hey, if you're gonna copy calibration settings off the internet, copy paste.
Yeah, we're great, man. Thank you.
It's gonna be like if I gave you my dad's heart medicine for your dad. It may or may not work.
Yeah, and then another thing about it is like they ran all the TVs for 200 hours before they did calibration, so they've been at this like all weekend long. So that's another thing, you know, to the testament to like they really wanted to get it right doing this.
That is true.
Yeah.
I don't know. I felt as if it was very too lopsided.
I felt that way too. Like I didn't score the LG that high because like the color accuracy on that was just so off. It was so off. And
Yeah,
and I'm buying
green.
an LG, like it's coming like in a week or two, and it was just off. I think that's kind of like the funniest thing. Like it was just off, and it was bad. So
From where I was looking at it, the Z9F wasn't too far off half the time. It really did look nice.
I gotta tell you, I like the way the Z9F looked.
It did look
looked
pretty
real
nice. in some spots.
Every time I looked at the Z9F and then looked at the BDM 300, it was like I was looking at the BDM 300 just bigger. But then when you think about it and you start noticing all the different ways that it's the blooming.
Oh, blooming.
When you start to notice how it's doing that, that's where you're just like, damn.
you start
It's a little
noticing
washy.
it more
It's a
and
little
more.
washy.
Yeah.
Once you think about it, but the thing is that helps when it comes to those peak whites. Like if you're trying to reach those 4,000 nit standard, like it's gonna do it no problem, like a walk in the park.
I mean, in the back of the room, from what I saw, like this year we weren't up close, but in the back of the room, the 9F looked really good. Like, it did look very close to the reference monitor.
Yeah.
I was up front, and I know that color-wise, it definitely was there. I think darkness or like the blacks kind of wasn't, and I noticed the same thing with the Samsung too. Like colors were there and they were saturated, but when I looked at skin tones between that and the A9G,
Yeah, the A9, they literally had like a darker skin tone a little bit, made it look a little bit
more realistic, right?
It's important to remember that these guys turned off the tone mapping on all these, on all the sources that they were playing on all these TVs. They wanted the TVs to, you know,
Tone
operate
map.
at their, you
And
know,
that was the
potential.
most confusing thing, is that all these sets tone map a totally different way. So when they were showing like all those test patterns, like I was sitting right up front, and it was just so hard to figure out which one would be better, because we saw the green and then the way the green clips through all those little bars on one TV, and then on the monitor it stopped at 1,000 nits because the BVM is, you know, strictly 1,000 nits. It does not tone map.
Yeah.
And they were playing a 4,000 nit test pattern, and you could visually see all four TVs handled it totally differently. So
Yeah, I mean the Z9F was displaying the green test pattern, a little bit yellowish. So that was surprising.
I felt the LG was just yellow all around. It was all the time.
Yeah, you can like, even when they were showing the snowboarding scene, you can tell like there was a little coloration was a little weird.
yeah, it was definitely a different like yellowish tint to the snow. Not good.
The sources were the Kaleidascape and also the UB9000, yeah, the Panasonic. And they did turn tone mapping off on the 9000. So there you guys go. We have the winner, the A9G. Thanks to China D. I'm pretty sure you voted for it. Let us know. Let the subscribers know where they can find you.
Oh yeah, you can find me on youtube.com/technodad.
Lies.
youtube.com/user/ace7690. My gamer tag from Xbox Live that I've had for the past 15 years. 15-year Xbox Live veteran, bringing that status over to YouTube.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'll leave links to these guys' channels at the end of this video. We'll see you guys again in the next one.
No Samsung wins at all. No Samsung.